Welcome to CivilNet. My guest today is the ambassador of the Netherlands to Armenia, Hans Horbach. Ambassador, thank you for coming to CivilNet and welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Pleasure to be here.
You are the ambassador to Armenia, but you are based in Tbilisi, Georgia.
That's correct. I'm accredited to both countries, so to Georgia and to Armenia.
Yeah. And you come how often to Armenia?
I try to come as often as I can, but of course it's a distance driving, but I try to be here every 6 weeks, 2 months at least. And then I have, of course, my staff, my collaborators, they come frequently as well to Armenia.
Ambassador, at the end of March, the Nuclear Security Summit 2014 will be taking place in The Hague in the Netherlands. Why The Hague?
Well, first of all, let's say nuclear security, that is something that affects us all. I think the aim of the summit is very much to prevent that radioactive material, nuclear material, can fall in the hands of individual terrorists. So I think that it's an interest for all countries, I mean, to prevent this from happening. And that's why in The Hague we have called this, it's the third nuclear summit. The first one was in Washington. That was called by President Obama in 2010. The second one was in Seoul, that's right. And now the third one in The Hague. It will be a huge event. I think we have far over 50, 55, I think, world leaders. 58, you checked, you are even more
3,000 or 5,000 delegates it's going to be.
That's right. And let's say we have the heads of international organizations, the Secretary General of the UN will be there, so it will be a major event. And the fact that we do it because we feel responsible to contribute to improving nuclear security globally. And that's we have nuclear installations in our country. So we have a personal, let's say, interest in improving security, but we are also a trading nation. We are a transport hub, a transshipment hub, so we are, let's say, at risk that our borders can be crossed and nuclear material can be brought in. So we have, in that respect, also a heavy responsibility. And that's the reason. The Hague is a city, we say, of peace and justice. We have the International Court of Justice. We have really an international vocation.
The legacy and of absolutely. The reason I asked is because Armenia will be participating. Armenia is a country that has nuclear capacity. We have the Metsamor nuclear power plant, the only one in the region, if I'm not mistaken. And there have been issues with Metsamor in the last several decades. There are plans to decommission it, but it supplies 40% of our country's energy. And without it, we don't want to be living back in the dark ages, obviously, in Armenia, and there are issues with its safety and security. And, certainly I'm not asking you as a specialist in nuclear power, but as a specialist in the region as well. Iran having the problems that it has had with the international community and now with the easing of sanctions because it has promised not to develop nuclear weapons. And do you see cooperation with Iran developing with Armenia, with Georgia perhaps? Would that contribute to more stability in the region?
I think definitely. I think that improving the relations internationally with Iran will, of course, have huge effects on the relationship of this country, of Armenia, with Iran. I think it's a big power. Economically, it's a very interesting country, I think, for Armenia to have relations with. So I'm sure that the improvement of the context, the international context of relations, will have a very beneficial effect on the relationship between Armenia and Iran. Your first question, let's say, on the attendance of the president of Armenia to The Hague. We are very happy indeed that he is heading the Armenian delegation. I think the Minister of Foreign Affairs will be part of the delegation. And of course, you mentioned it, there is an important nuclear power plant here in the country. So there is also an interest for Armenia to keep this as safe as possible, and also in the context of what I told you earlier, preventing that nuclear material falls into the hands of terrorists. I think there also we are very happy that this country is contributing and taking its responsibility by participating in this country, and we are very much looking forward to the opinions and views of the Armenian delegation.
Yes, because there has again been much discussion about putting together a consortium of different countries and companies to build perhaps a new nuclear power plant in Armenia, to decommission Metsamor, or to bring it up to standards, to, aside from the terrorism aspect, to ensure the security and safety so that there is no nuclear fallout, as it were, radioactive fallout in the country. Would you know that if should the European Union be motivated and interested in being part of bringing Metsamor up to those standards to ensure its security?
I think definitely there is there's a global interest in keeping nuclear installations as safe as possible. Of course, the plant here in Armenia is not a very recent one, so I know the problems that you are considering, let's say, either extending the lifespan of the current installation or building a new one. I know also that it is financially, let's say, quite a decision to take. I'm sure that, let's say, internationally, that people are willing to consider possibilities, let's say, to contribute to nuclear safety. I think that is first and foremost the importance, that whatever decision is being taken by the government and whatever the option that is being chosen, that safety should be first and foremost for the population and for the region. Because, you know, if there is a fallout, I mean, nuclear energy, and that is something that doesn't stop at borders. So I think that is an interest globally and regionally to keep the plant as safe as possible.
I'd like to shift gears, if we may, now and talk about Armenia Georgia. You are the ambassador, as we said, for both countries, and in recent months, Armenia and Georgia seem to have changed directions. Armenia has, at least, with Georgia signing the association agreement and Armenia backtracking, and on September 3, President Serge Sarkisyan deciding that the country will in fact join the Russian customs union. These are two very different directions for countries that are neighbors in the South Caucasus, and for you as ambassador. Do you see there being problems in that respect for the region?
No, I don't think problems. I mean, every country has the right to choose, let's say, the relation with your surrounding countries as you want, as it deems necessary. Then, of course, talking about, let's say, the Vilnius summit, the initialing of the association agreement and the deep and comprehensive free trade area. Indeed, Georgia has initialed at the last moment, a little bit to our surprise, on the 3rd of September, Armenia has decided, let's say, to join the customs union. That is, of course, that will result in some incompatibilities with regard to tariffs and so on. I think that still has to be sorted out. I think what exactly, let's say, the changes will be technically when Armenia will join the customs union. But I don't see a problem, because Armenia, and the president has been making that very clear, that they maintain a huge interest in maintaining good relations with the European Union to, let's say, to continue the process of democratization, respect for human rights, the European norms and values. So I think there is no incompatibility of the directions. And I think I have seen very recently the president of Georgia paid a very successful visit, I think, to Armenia. And I think they decided, of course, they are very important for each other. I think a lot of Armenia's trade goes through Georgia. So I think there's definitely an interest, and I think I have not felt any disagreements when they came back. I mean, it's an accent in the foreign policy that is different. Georgia is a little bit more outspoken, maybe more rapidly evolving and focusing on, let's say, their aspirations towards the European Union than Armenia, but I don't see any incompatibility or problems.
Okay, so then what is the viewpoint from Europe in its relationship with Armenia? As you said, yes, Armenia is very much interested in continuing its relations with the European Union in the processes of democratization, civil society development, transparency, and all of that. Do you think that the European Union's position, relationship with Armenia will suffer as a result of this, or has suffered already?
Well, it will change a little bit because, let's say, the ultimate objective, let's say, that is not anymore the association agreement as it was on the table in Vilnius. But I think that in many sectors, I think there is still enough room for cooperation with Armenia and the European Union. And I'm pretty sure that from both sides, there is an interest in maintaining this relationship in a very constructive manner.
And just a final question, if I may. Do you think that the European Union or Europe did enough to encourage Armenia to join the association agreement with what has been transpiring in Ukraine as well? Do you think that security guarantees for Armenia would have changed the decision of the Armenian government?
I don't know if the European Union is in a position to give security guarantees. I think that has been an important factor for Armenia to take the decision it has taken, because Russia plays a big role in Armenia's security. So in that respect, you can understand that they have made a choice they have made. But let's say the European Union, you can always ask, was it enough that was on the table? I'm sure that people will put this question as well in the light of what happened in Ukraine. But what is important, I think, that from both sides, let's say there is a continued will to continue cooperating and working with each other for the better of the populations.
Well, Ambassador, thank you very much for coming to CivilNet. I'm sure that it is with the work and diligence of diplomats like yourself in the region that will help to continue our relations with the European Union deepen and strengthen. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It was a great pleasure to be here. And whenever I'm in Armenia, I'm in your hands, and according to your wishes, it will be a pleasure to be back here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would like to remind our viewers that my guest today was Ambassador Hans Horbach, the Ambassador of the Netherlands to Armenia. Stay with CivilNet.